I'm going to read from the prologue, which is a fun chapter, but not the most exciting chapter, but it also is a chapter that doesn't spoil anything. Because as you know, if you've read the books, the prologues to each of the volumes of the Stormlight Archive all take place at the same time. So this will not give too many spoilers. So each of them are a different viewpoint character. We're going to get Navani's view on that special night right now. I'll read to you for about 15 minutes and then we'll do a Q&A. Of course, the Parshendi wanted to play their drums. Of course, Gavilar had told them they could. And of course, he hadn't thought to warn Navani. Have you seen the size of those instruments? Varatham said, running her hands through her black hair. Where will we put them? We can't. We moved to the upper feast hall, Navani said, trying to project a calm demeanor. Everybody else in the kitchens was close to panicking, cooks running one direction or another, pots banging. Gavilar had invited not just the high princes, but their relatives, and every high lord in town, and he wanted a beggar's feast. And now, drums? We've already set up in the lower hall, Varatham said. I don't have the staff to. There are twice as many soldiers as usual loitering around the palace tonight, Navani said. We'll have them move the tables. Gavilar never forgot about things like posting extra guards. Projecting strength, making a show of force, he could always be counted on for that. For everything else, he had Navani. Good work, yes, Varatham said. Good to put those louts to work rather than having them underfoot. All right, deep breaths. The short palace organizer scuttled away, narrowly avoiding an apprentice cook carrying a large bowl of steaming shellfish. Navani stepped to the side and let the hook pass. The man nodded in thanks. The staff had long since stopped being nervous when she entered their kitchens. She made it clear to them that doing their jobs efficiently was superior praise to her than a bow. Fortunately, this staff was the kind of middle-ranked Luddites who understood the need for a little practicality. They seemed to have things well in hand now, though there had been a scare earlier when 3 barrels of grain had been discovered with worms in them. A little creative thinking had reminded them that Bright Lord Amaram had stores for his men, and Navani had been able to pry them out of his grip. For now, it seemed that the extra cooks borrowed from the monastery, they might actually be able to feed all the extra people Gavilar had invited. I should leave some of the tables set up in the lower hall, she thought, slipping out of the kitchens and into the palace gardens. Who knows who might show up with an invitation? At the very least, she might need to feed some military officers who couldn't be seated in the main feast hall. She turned to hike up through the gardens and enter the palace through the side doors. She'd be less out of the way and wouldn't have to dodge servants if she went this way. Maybe she could. Navani slowed. The coal in our palace was brightly lit tonight, with spheres adorning every hallway and all of the garden walkways. By that light, Navani could easily make out Aesudan, her daughter-in-law, Elkar's wife, standing just near the fountains. The slender woman wore her long hair in a bun, which was lit with gemstones of each shade. All those colors were gaudy together. Navani preferred a few simple stones themed to a color, but it did make Aesudan stand out as she chatted with 2 elderly ardents. Storms, bright and brash. Was that Richard Chris, the artist and master artifabrian? When had he gotten into town? Who had invited him? He was holding a small box with a flower painted on it. Could that be one of his new fabrials? Navani found herself drawn toward the group, all her thoughts fleeing her mind. How had he gotten the heating fabrial to work? How had he captured the flame spread? How did he make the temperature vary? She'd seen drawings, but talk to the master artist himself? Aesudan saw Navani and then smiled brightly. The joy seemed genuine, which was unusual, at least when she directed it at Navani. Navani tried not to take Aesudan's general sourness to her as a personal affront. It was the prerogative of every woman to feel threatened by her mother-in-law, particularly when the girl was so obviously lacking in talents. Fortunately, Elkar liked her, and she was of a good family. Navani smiled at her in turn, trying to enter the conversation and get a better look at that box. Aesudan, however, took Navani by the arm. Mother, I had forgotten completely about our appointment. I'm so fickle sometimes. Terribly sorry, ardent Chris, but I must make a hasty exit. Aesudan tugging Navani forcefully back through the gardens toward the kitchens. Thank Kalek you showed up, Mother. That man is the most dreadful bore. Bore? Navani said, twisting to look over her shoulder. He was talking about gemstones and another gemstone and spren and boxes of spren and storms. What a night. You'd think you would understand. We have important people to meet. The wives of high princes, the best generals in the land come to gawk at the wild parshmen. Then I get stuck in the gardens talking to ardents. Your son ditched me there, I'll have you know. When I find that boy... Navani extricated herself from Aeson's grip. Someone should go entertain those ardents. Why are they here? Don't ask me, Aeson said. Gavilar wanted them for something, but he made Elhokar entertain them. Poor manners, that is, really. Gavilar had invited one of the world's most prominent Artifabrians to visit the palace. He hadn't even bothered to tell Navani. An anger stirred deep inside her, a fury she kept carefully penned and locked away. That man, that storming man, how could he? Calm, Navani, the rational side of her mind said. Maybe he intends to introduce you to the Ardent as a gift. He knows how interested you are in Fabrials. Perhaps that was it. Brightness, a voice called from the kitchens. Brightness, Navani, oh please, we have a problem. Aeson, Navani said, eyes on the Ardent, who was slowly walking away toward the path to the monastery. She could catch him. She could spare a few minutes. Could you help the kitchens with whatever they need? I'd like to... But Aeson was already hurrying off toward another group in the gardens, one attended by several powerful High Lord generals. Navani took a deep breath, shoving down another stab of annoyance. Aeson claimed to care about propriety and manners, but she'd butt into a conversation between men without even her husband as an excuse. Brightness, the cook called, waving to her. Navani took one last look at the Ardents, then sat her jaw and hurried back to the kitchen, careful not to catch her skirt on the ornamental shale bark. What now? Wine, the cook said. We're out of both the Clavina and the Ruby Bench. How? Navani said. We ordered... She shared a look with the cook, and the answer was evident. Dalinar had been at the wine again, it appeared. I have a private store, Navani said, pulling her notebook from her pocket. She gripped it in her safe hand through the sleeve, scribbling a note. I keep it in the monastery with Sister Nana. She'll show her this, and she'll give you the access. Thank you, Brightness, the cook said, taking the note. Before the man was even out the door, however, Navani spotted the house steward, a white-bearded man with too many rings on his fingers, standing in the stairwell up to the palace proper. He was fidgeting with the rings on his hand. Father. What is it? She asked, striding over. Guests have started to arrive, Brightness, including High Lord Vama, who was promised an audience with the king regarding the border disputes. You know, the one about the misdrawn maps, yes, Navani said, sighing. And my husband? Vanished, Brightness, the steward said. He was seen with Bright Lord Amaram and some of those uncommon figures. That was the term the palace staff used for Gavilar's new friends, the ones who seemed to arrive without warning or announcement, and who rarely gave their names. Navani ground her teeth, thinking through the places Gavilar might have gotten himself to. There were a few rooms he tended to use. He would probably be angry if she interrupted him. Well, good. He should be seeing to his duties rather than just assuming she'd handle it all. Unfortunately, at the moment, she would have to handle it. Bright Lord Vama couldn't be left waiting. She left the anxious steward leading her up She let the anxious steward lead her up to the grand entryway, where guards were being entertained with music, drink, and poetry, while the feast was being prepared. Others were going with master servants to view the Parshendi, the night's true novelty. It wasn't every day that the king of Elhokar signed a treaty with a group of mysterious parshmen who could talk. She dealt with Vama, offering apologetic words, even going so far as to review the maps herself and write him a judgment. From there, she was stopped from locating Gavilar by a line of needy men and women who had come specifically to get the king's attention, a privilege that was growing more and more difficult these days, unless you were one of the uncommon figures. Navani assured Bright Lords their petitions were being heard. She promised to look into injustices. She soothed the crumpled feelings of those who thought a personal invitation from the king would mean they'd actually get to see him. It was emotionally taxing work, but nothing new to her, and fully within the queen's expected duties. Navani didn't resent her station. Perhaps someday she'd be able to spend her days tinkering with fabrials and pretending she was a scholar. For now, she had duties. The only thing that truly bothered her was the fact that she shouldn't have to do it alone. She was unsurprised at asking that unexpected guests were indeed still showing up, ones that weren't even on the list an annoyed Gavilar had provided for her earlier in the day. That was Golden Keys. Navani kept her increasing fury under control, painting an amicable face for the arriving guests. She smiled, she laughed, she waved. Using the cheat sheet she kept in her notebook, she asked after families, new births, and favored axe hounds. She inquired about trade situations, took notes on which Lydites seemed to be avoiding others. In short, she acted like a queen. She always felt like an imposter, and with good reason. She hadn't been born to this station. Gavilar, Navani, Sadius, ELA, they'd taken these mantles upon themselves. And however prestigious her ancient lineage, Navani had to work hard to suppress her anxiety and whispered she was really just a girl wearing someone else's clothing. Those insecurities have been stronger lately. Calm, no room for that sort of thinking. She rounded the room and was happy to know that Aeson had found Elhokar and was chatting with him for once rather than other men. Elhokar did look happy presiding over the pre-feast gathering in his father's absence. Adolin and Renarin were there in stiff uniforms, the former delighting a small group of young women, the latter looking gangly and awkward as he stood by his brother. And there was Dalinar, standing tall, somewhat taller than any man in the room, but with those haunted eyes simmering with passion. He wasn't drunk yet, nor people orbited him, like they might have fire on a cold night, needing to be close, but not daring to step up and risk the true heat of his presence. Storms. She complained to her current conversation partners that she was feeling a little faint, and after assuring them that she would be fine, made a brief exit up the steps, where she wouldn't feel so warm. It was probably a bad idea to leave. They were lacking a king, so if the queen vanished too, questions were bound to arise. But surely everyone could get on without her for a short time. Besides, up here, she could check on one of Gavilar's hiding places. He'd probably come this direction, away from both the guests and the location of the new feast hall. Barshendi with their drums passed nearby, speaking a language she did not understand, though one of the young interpreters was with them, so Navani could have asked if she wanted. Instead, she twisted her way through the dungeon-like hallways. Why couldn't this place have a little more light, a few more windows? She brought the matter up to Gavilar, but he liked it this way, gave him more places to hide. There she thought, stopping at an intersection. Voices. Being able to bring them back and forth from Braze doesn't mean anything, Gavilar, one of them said. It's too close to be a relevant distance. It was impossible just a few short years ago, said a deep, powerful voice. This is proof. The connection is not severed, but can be warped to allow for travel. Not yet as far as you'd like, but we must start the journey somewhere. Navani inched forward, looking around the corner. Yes, there he was, right where she'd expected him to be, in her study. A place she rarely had time to visit, but also a place where people were unlikely to search for the king. It was a cozy little room with a nice window, tucked away in the corner of the second floor. He'd left the door cracked, and she inched to peer in. Gavilar Kholin had a big enough presence to fill a room all by himself. He wore a beard, but instead of being unfashionable on him, it looked classic, like he was a painting come to life, a representation of old Alethkar. By wearing the beard, someone thought he might start a fashion trend, but nobody else had been able to pull off the look. Others didn't have Gavilar's strong features. Beyond that, there was an air of distortion around Gavilar. Nothing supernatural or nonsensical. It was that, well, you accepted that Gavilar could do whatever he wanted, in defiance of tradition or logic. For him, it would work out. That was just the way of things. The king was speaking with two men that Navani vaguely recognized. Ambassadors from the west were what they'd been called, but no kingdom had been given for their home. They were simply among Gavilar's uncommon visitors. And I will just stop there.